How one software engineer outperforms 138. And then also, not only that, but this same one software engineer, we also have, where is it? Where is it? Right here, we have a postmortem for the longest downtime, which just happened just a couple days ago. So this will be very interesting to see the postmortem. So we're going to watch the video. We might skip part of the videos. I'm not sure. And then we'll go on to the next one. Right? Is the engineer named Tom?
Lichess
Yes.
is a chess platform that supports 5.2 million chess games a day with a single core developer. It's a massive platform built with a pretty unusual stack, including some technologies that you may have never heard of, like Scala and Snabbdom. This is an incredibly...
The snap one, I've never heard it. Snapdong, I think it's called Snapdong, but I love the fact that Scala was just like, technology you've never heard of, Scala. And there's like, there was at least 12 people in the audience, potentially even dozens of them that were like, you know?
productive developer, and the technology plays at least a small part in enabling these
Scala?
massive gains. Before we dive into...
Does LinkedIn use a lot of Scala? Scala Johansson? I want to know if that's true. Does LinkedIn? Sorry, I know we have a video, but I just want to know. So a lot of Scala lovers. Okay, hold on. Just for fun, I actually now you guys, dude. So many people are saying they love Scala. Quick poll. Do you use Scala? A lot of people do not use Scala, is what I'm saying, and people that use Scala do not like it. Maybe the guy is right. Nobody knows what Scala is. Okay, I think that's fair to say. Nobody knows what Scala is. Let's go.
Of a stack. Let me share a short anecdote to set the landscape for online chess. This is Vladimir Kramnik. He defeated Garry Kasparov to become the world chess champion in 2000 and defended that title to remain the best player in the world until 2006. At his peak, he was the undisputed best player in the world. But lately, he's better known for the accusations he makes on Twitter. After comparing the over-the-board and online statistics of some high-rated players, he came to the conclusion that they must be cheating, eventually resulting in a tournament called the Clash of Claims. After Kramnik accused Grandmaster Jose Martinez of cheating, Chess.com offered to be part of a tournament where they would play over-the-board and online games to determine whether Martinez was in fact cheating. Obviously, this tournament is completely useless because people who are good at something can still cheat, but everyone agreed to go ahead with it anyway, with a few conditions. Very conservative.
Was this also the anal beads cheating? Was this the butt vibrators? Oh, dude, I love the fact that there's people that have absolutely no idea about this. I know it wasn't this Martinez. I know it wasn't this guy. I forget who did it. But was this under the same umbrella of accusations? Not these words I was expecting to hear today. Yeah. I always was curious, how would you, let's just say we're going into the anals of this joke. But how would you deliver a message via vibration? Would it have to be Morse code? Like, would you have to Morse code out the vibrations? Like, is there any other way you could do it? I mean, maybe you could, since there's only 16 characters, right? Flip, do not pull out the butt plug. This is some serious thing. So that means there's only really 16 letters you have to say. So therefore, you should be able to actually have a reduced Morse code, right? I bet you there's a pretty good, like, kind of way you could do this. This totally redefines tree shaking. Oh, there's tree shaking. We're tree shaking out the possibilities here.
About cheating, Kramnik demanded that brand new laptops be opened every morning before the online games. Because of the way time zones were configured on the brand new laptops, the chess...
Can we just go back for a second? If there's ever been a greater reason why governments shouldn't make decisions, I think this map right here just is beautiful. I just love that this time zone's like, and fuck you, -2, and just keeps on going, right? Like, just out of nowhere, the government's like, yeah, I don't think so, and then keeps on going.
The chess clock, which is just a simple countdown timer, shown on Kramnik's screen, was off by over 30 seconds. This makes a huge difference in a 3-minute game. There are many systems we could blame for this issue. The operating system, JavaScript, time zones,
OS.
all of these are terrible, error-prone things that we have created.
Yeah.
But because it fits my narrative, I'm going to say that one of the 138 engineers working at chess.com should have been able to wrangle these 3 systems together and create a working timer. Especially...
Isn't there already a really well-known, well-solved timing situation to be able to get the exact offsets from each other to be able to know how to set, like, it's a well-known algorithm, right? We've built it on this stream several times. You just like got to ping the person a few times to gather the proper offset. And then you're just like constantly ping, and it's just, you need 300 devs for that. Oh, is that, are we using Fang measurements at this point? Is Galacticus still not going to work because EKS? Wait, who was the last person in EKS? Who's the one that couldn't deliver ISO timestamps? I can't remember. Dang it. EKS relied on something to deliver ISO timestamps, and there is no ISO timestamps because they can't get their shit together. So that means EKS cannot give us the timestamps, which means Galacticus cannot find our birthday boy service, which means I'm gonna die alone.
Since the single engineer who built Lichess doesn't have this issue. Chess.com is the biggest chess platform in the world. It is a multi-million-dollar company with over 700 employees. Users can play a variety of chess modes online, request an engine review of their games, complete puzzles, analyze positions using an engine, and play against AI. Most of these
700 employees and 560 of them aren't programming? What are the other 560 doing? Okay, let's throw a few into design. Let's go to chess.com really quickly. Okay, let's not throw that many into design. To be completely fair, let's just say there's one person named Charlene running design right now. Someone has to tell me what the other 500 and some people are. 50 chess experts on payroll. That's fine. 50 chess experts on payroll is okay. I get that. That seems reasonable, right? You have some amount of chess experts that just simply play on your site, just so you can have people that are ensuring that things are good, all that, best output. It's probably people playing chess so the place looks busy off hours.
These features are freemium and will be limited without a monthly membership. Lichess is the second biggest chess platform. It is an open source hobby project created by Thibaut Duplessis. On Lichess, users can play a variety of chess modes online, request an engine review of their games, complete puzzles, analyze positions, and play against AI, all completely for free. Now, it's not like he's done this all by himself, right? Well, honestly, he kind of has. The core repository has 430 contributors, but a quick look at the contribution graph shows that this man is the single driving force behind Lichess. For years, his was the only salary paid for by the Lichess organization, a very modest salary given the quality of his work. Today, Lichess pays...
Wait, hold on, did I just see that? Hold on, I want to see that again. He only made $58,000? Bro, give this man a raise. He streams on Twitch? Give me his username. He's a Chad too? Yeah, dude, what? Man, bro's out here doing a great job for everybody.
A very modest salary, given the quality of his work. Today, Lichess pays two salaries,
me in a little bit.
One for Thibaut and one for someone to maintain the mobile application. This is incredibly impressive.
It is Flutter, so that means you do have to pay somebody to maintain that. Dude, crazy that this guy wearing a colander on his head is out here making a website that big.
One core developer supports 5.2 million chess games a day. Including the two mentioned salaries, Lichess costs $517,085 American dollars and 10 cents a year to run. The stack is Scala, MongoDB, Snabbdom, TypeScript, and Sass, which all run on a bare metal server in France. This is not a very common stack, but with such a small team...
I'm going to ask this question, and I may sound stupid. What's a bare metal server? And is that somehow different than just a server? Your mom? Okay. Does that literally just means bro rents a VPS? Co-located hardware? Okay, so it's just literally a computer. No hypervisor. Okay. No hypervisor makes sense. Unmanaged VPS? Is that it? So just a Linux box. Nice.
Creating such a massive product, Thibaut has prioritized small, simple tools that focus on long-term developer experience and give the best value for money. Scala is the language that powers most of Lichess. It was chosen because it is strongly typed, expressive, high-level, functional, and has the ability to leverage the massive JVM ecosystem. Scala is not a popular choice by any stretch of the imagination. I would wager that a significant number of viewers would have never heard of Scala, and an even fewer number ever written it. Scala is a response to the issues commonly found in Java, mainly too much boilerplate and a lackluster type system. It aims to be succinct, with better support for functional patterns, while still being compatible with the JVM. It is expressive, scalable, and safe. It supports both object orientation and functional programming. It is extremely concise, and its type system is a huge improvement over other JVM languages. I still can't believe that Java and Kotlin both have no union types. Scala also has the nice enums that can store values and be used for pattern matching. It shares many features with popular.
I do like enums. I always want more types. I don't know what it is. He likes the enums. Some coding guy, I love the enums, right? I don't know what it is, but I love this style. I just think this is beautiful. I've always loved this. I'm curious how this works right here. You must have to name them in order with these. I do. I have a type fetish. Yeah, I like enums too. Yeah, tagged unions. I don't know why we call them enums. Does anyone know why we call them enums? I feel like enums feels like a confusing term rather than some sort of tagged union. Prime learned Scala? I know. Well, I know what enumeration is, but ML to blame enums? Yeah, because it feels weird that we use the term enumeration. I'm masturbating them typed so hard right now. I am just fully typed on. You're enumerating all the possibilities. Yeah, but that... Okay, whatever. Fine, that's fine. But that's not like what it is. That's like what you're doing, not what it is. Enum is just a fat union, tagged union. Yeah, so there's a tag, and then there's the thingy. That's all it is. I assume that the enum underneath the hood has either 64 bits or 8 bits, some sort of big or small amount of memory dedicated to its tag, and then it's going to be a union on the other side. So it's going to have a fat pointer to a string, a digits that's a long, and probably I assume a date's some sort of fat pointer maybe. And so then you have that one long side. So PayPal's still going to have the same size as a string, long, and date. It's still going to be a union. The nice part is that it's computer detail. Devs don't need to know. I know devs don't need to know, but it's interesting to know how these things work, because when you don't know why something works, sometimes you can actually misuse it. Wherever you went, some coding guy, you don't have your color set, so I miss you. Set your color, some coding guy. You're like blue on one side and orange on this side. The reason why it's nice to know is that, like this right here, how does a match statement work on this? Does it have to linearly go through everything? Or is there some sort of sweet offsetting that it can do, right? Like there's, it's kind of good to understand how these things, generally work, right? Yeah, no way, it's simple jump. Well, exactly, it's a simple jump, but if it's not, but how would you know that? Well, you know that because it's a tagged union, Like your brain kind of gets these things and you understand the reasoning why. By the way, some coding guy's a great guy.
Functional languages like currying, immutability, lazy evaluation, and pattern matching. You can think of Scala as a middle ground between Haskell and Java Kotlin, or as Haskell with more side effects. The name Scala comes from scalable language. This is a language that is designed to grow with the needs of its users. Here,
quick question, is Scala or OCaml more user-friendly? Ginger Bill, since you design languages, I defer to you with all the deference I can. Which one is more user-friendly? OCaml is nicer to me, and I don't use Scala because it's Java, and that is fair. That is the fairest statement ever said, ever. Scala has every possible concept in the world in it, so in that way it's user-friendly. Okay.
Here's what Tibor has to say about why he chose Scala. First of all, it is strongly typed. Emphasis on strongly.
Okay, I like that.
Then, Scala has decent support for functional programming, no mutability, no side effects. Since Lichess is a big beast, we don't have a lot of manpower, and I'm not the brightest star. We then need a lot of help from the language and compiler in order to scale in complexity. Scala gives us that. Haskell has similar properties, but Scala runs on the JVM and benefits from the entire Java ecosystem, and that's what made the difference.
I would also assume if you wrote it in Haskell, you'd have to first provide a white paper, and that would probably greatly reduce down your ability to ship anything. And then on top of that, you'd probably also have to have like a reference implementation of your white paper before you can even start on the actual implementation, right? There'd be a lot of difficulty with using Haskell that's just not being mentioned here. Also, the guy runs 100 and some thousand concurrent game server effectively, and calls himself not the brightest star. He's obviously actually a pretty talented person here.
Tibor has said that if he had to start over, he would seriously consider Haskell, but he originally chose Scala because of the JVM and would likely make the same choice today. Haskell is an excellent language that, much like Scala, is also strongly typed, expressive, high-level, and functional. Each of these requirements helps the tiny team deliver a huge product. The strong type system allows for easy, carefree refactoring.
By the way, for someone saying that he's not the brightest star and that he would write a massively multiplayer game engine on the internet in Haskell, it's like, okay there, guy. yeah there, buddy. Oh, you're not that smart, are you?
Expressive syntax allows for features to be developed
Nice
with
try,
less
guy.
code. The functional
Nice
paradigm
try,
reduces
guy.
side effects, which keeps code clear and easy to reason about. Lichess uses the Play framework. This is an MVC framework specifically for Scala applications, but Tibor
nice.
has mentioned that this is one of the technologies that he regrets adopting. Lila is built on the Play framework. It made sense originally to speed up development with a cohesive and opinionated set of libraries that work together, a framework. But as years went and Lila got bigger, it outgrew the framework, and we would now be better off with smaller, independent libraries that we can swap as needed. So
I feel like this is... I've heard this story about virtually every single framework to date, even modern ones, that it starts up, there's like a middle ground of goodness. And you could probably even make the exact same case for React, that React is really, really great for a certain size of project, but as time goes on, the niceness of React is probably disproportional. And I bet you could make the argument for virtually any framework that as you grow in complexity, your needs just simply differ from 99% of apps. So it becomes harder to actually use these things.
instead of a framework, I would now be looking at one library for HTTP, another one for routing, another one for HTTP forms, JSON, and so on. MongoDB is a very flexible document storage database. If you haven't heard of MongoDB before, it's basically like storing JSON objects in a queryable way. MongoDB is a database that does this in a resilient and efficient way. It makes it very easy to get started, since you don't have to think about database modeling as you would in a relational database. You save...
Bro, you can just do joins yourself. Okay? Like, you don't need... You don't need to do that. By the way, bro, just do the joins. You can just do the joins. They're not even that hard. Also, fun fact, the reason why I stream on LinkedIn for our C# days is because of MongoDB. MongoDB used to stream regularly on Twitch, and they'd get like 8 viewers. Then they switched to LinkedIn. They're getting like 500 plus viewers concurrently. And I said, there's streaming on LinkedIn? And they said, yes, there is. So then I said, well, I got an idea. And now you know why I streamed on LinkedIn.
Save your objects, usually exactly as they are in your code, and the
I also got
database
banned on
manages
LinkedIn.
for related queries. Lichess chose Mongo because it is fast, robust, easy to
Then got
use,
unbanned.
and has good compression. Its biggest disadvantage is that it can be very expensive. I know firsthand that MongoDB Atlas can come with crippling costs, especially with a growing dataset. And although storage is still the biggest server expense, the fact that Lichess is self-hosted helps me.
All right, I got to do one more thing about Mongo. We used Mongo, and so it was so painful to use Mongo. We had like 100 and some different types. I actually wrote this library live on stream so I could take the Mongo stream of events at my previous job and turn them into TypeScript definitions, because it became so painful to figure out what the hell was going on inside of Mongo, because everything could just be stored. It was just a giant storage of just shit, and you have no idea what's inside of it. So I'd grab all these things out and stream in all these different types just to figure out what was in it. I literally was like Nancy Pelosi. I had to pass MongoDB to know what's inside of it. Everybody likes a surprise. Yeah, I had to query the whole dang thing. I would actually get millions of game objects out just so I could figure out what the hell was in there. I didn't even know what was in there. It was painful. I paused on this screen, and this is me. There's a bit of irony for me coming back to old man yelling at clouds while I yell about Mongo. Old man yells about Mongo. Let's talk about Netflix stock price. We're not talking about Netflix stock price.
Document
Damn clouds.
storage works well for chess games, although Tibor feels that MongoDB itself is not a key to his success. MongoDB is serving us well, and I'm happy with it. It's currently juggling with 5.5 billion games and about 15 billion other documents, and serving tens of thousands of queries per second. It's fast, compresses the data, and replicates seamlessly for redundancy and data safety. Its aggregation framework allows for complex data queries that Lichess needs. If we had to remake that choice, we would probably go for PostgreSQL, because it can also do all that, and it's released under an open source license.
I wonder how expensive this decision is, because they did mention earlier that it cost them about $500,000 United States Federal Reserve notes per year. JSON for global warming, exactly. So I'm curious how much of that running is in database alone.
Choosing between document storage and a relational database is a personal and semi-permanent
about
choice.
$500K?
They can both serve most applications, so choose whatever you're most comfortable with. Migrations are very painful, but...
Okay. I've never been a big fan, and I see this all the time. Just use what you like. Just do what you got to do. Like, no, that's the whole point of learning and engineering, is that you don't use what you like and you use what is easy and familiar. You actually go and investigate and attempt to understand the landscape and why someone would make a choice A versus choice B. Like that is the point of engineering. This is what you're supposed to do. This is why you should always at some point use VS Code for some amount of time. And then you should use Vim for some amount of time. And you should use Emacs for some amount of time. You should use IntelliJ for some amount of time. Understand why you use one thing versus the other thing, and then choose the thing you really, really feel like you can do the best. It's a little bit ridiculous what's going on here. SQLite could be great. Postgres could be great.
NoSQL and SQL are both extremely versatile. Lichess also uses Redis to communicate between services. Most notably, the WebSocket service saves events to a Redis cache, which are then read by the core service, which is named Lila. We'll talk about the overall architecture a little later, but it's not a single monolith and it's not all microservices. I can't confirm since the deployment of Lila is not public, but I have a feeling that this Redis cache is what allows Lichess to be deployed multiple times a week without downtime, since the WebSocket connections can keep state in the cache, which can be read by the new version. Given Tibor has mentioned he prefers static typing, it shouldn't be much of a surprise that the front end of Lichess uses type.
One quick thing that was super cool. That's super cool that he was able to create such an amazing experience that he can deploy with live WebSockets, and it just keeps on going. That's pretty amazing.
TypeScript provides a strong type system for the front end. Much like the backend, this allows for easy refactoring and maintenance, since the compiler is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you. For a long time, Lichess was using Mithril.js, a tiny JS framework with a focus on simplicity. Due to its growing complexity, they eventually moved to Snabbdom, a virtual DOM library with an even greater focus on simplicity. Here's what Tibor had to say about front-end frameworks. Oh my, did I love Mithril. It's such a breath of fresh air. Virtual DOM done right, simple, and a beautiful API. Fast pass time and runtime. The love story lasted a couple years. Then I realized that Snabbdom was pushing it all a bit further. Simpler, smaller, faster. Mithril 2 improved performance, but at the cost of complexity, using element caches. I'm glad that Snabbdom didn't go that way. It makes it more stable and predictable. Most popular front-end frameworks and libraries come packed with features, not all of which you always need. Some of these features usually include state map.
Really? Including vanilla JS in there? Gotta prepare for a meeting. Have a good one, Guy. I actually want to talk to you, Guy. We should make sure we chat. It's been a long time. I should probably join Xflix now. I mean, now that I am Xflix, I should probably join Xflix at some point. This is pretty great. Also, pretty great. I'm not sure. I don't even know what this number is, but bro, Angular got a lot of that number, and Vanilla.js got none of that number. That's a lot of number right there.
Management, lifecycle methods, JSX syntax, and a virtual DOM.
Angular is up bad.
Takes an unopinionated approach. The core module comes with a great virtual DOM, and nothing else. It's dead simple, but it's also extremely fast and versatile. All the extra functionality that you are forced to use with other libraries can be opted into by adding modules. It's usually not reasonable to use raw JavaScript or raw jQuery, especially for big projects.
Raw JavaScript just means handle your own errors. What is raw JavaScript? Because isn't this just raw JavaScript? By the way, I may actually have to do a project for a big company, and they asked me what front-end framework I'm going to use, and I said none. Yeah, crazy, huh? No build. It'll be built with no build available, but also the ability to be easily integrated and not have that.
Snabbdom gives you the most important part of the
If I do it, you guys will know
the
about it.
virtual
It'll be
DOM,
built
without
part of
the
it on
massive
stream.
dependencies that usually come bundled in. This shows how important simplicity is to Lichess, especially on the front end where things can get out of hand fast. While many front-end developers tend to add dependencies to try and solve issues, Tibor is actively trying to reduce them, even when the existing framework is one of the smallest frameworks available. Lichess's front end is by no means perfect, but the bland look is an intentional choice by the developer, rather than a limitation of a project's dependencies. Even Tibor admits that there is a lot to improve on, but he chooses to focus on UX instead of UI, since that is more important. I did most of the UI myself. I'm a programmer, not a designer. That's why it's always been quite bland, with no images and very little colors. I made up for my lack of UI skills by focusing on UX, user experience, and I think it paid off. Lichess uses Sass to
I think that's pretty fair. That's pretty, like, I mean, do you need your site to be super great if you have function first? Right? Function over, I mean, there's something very amazing about that. So I've never played with Lichess, but if it really is that nice to use, then yeah, features over design. Then yeah, it's a chess website. What else? It's supposed to have like puzzles and stuff like that. Bro, UX is 1,000 times more important than UI. Yeah, design is hard. Making something look pretty is very, very difficult. But design, often people just think that that's what design is, looking something pretty. But UX is arguably the most important part of it. How do you get someone where you don't, like Twitter? Whenever you do something on Twitter, it takes like 15 clicks. Right? I don't want 15 clicks. I want 1 click. I want to be able to just do the thing. And how do you do that without overloading somebody with what appears to be the inside of an airplane? Just having just buttons all over the place. It's very impressive to do it well.
manage CSS, although Tibor isn't thrilled with it. Sass is annoying, but that's just because CSS is annoying. I wonder if he would like Tailwind.
Fair.
It seems like a natural complement to his current stack, although I've never
CSS
seen
is
him
annoying.
comment on it. The Lichess architecture can be described as a monolith with satellites. The main server, Lila, is a massive monolith. Some smaller services, like Stockfish Analysis and WebSockets, are split into separate servers. This is not a state of transition. This is a great way to leverage the strengths and weaknesses of both monoliths and microservices. Lila comes with the convenience of a monolith. It's convenient because all the state is in one place and can be cached in heap for all modules of the site to use, which makes it very efficient and quick at runtime. Everything compiles as a single unit, which ensures that the entire site is coherent and free of incompatibilities.
Locality of states.
The disadvantage is that it becomes a single point of failure for the whole system. Tibor splits part of the code that they would like to deploy separately into their own servers, so that they can be deployed and even fail without affecting the most important servers. The current state of things is a result of years of evolution. There was no master plan. We just looked at monitoring to figure out what needed scaling. I like where it's at, but to be honest, I'm biased by the fact that it's the only large codebase I've been working on for years. So I lack experience with different ways of doing things that I could compare it to. Maybe being able to deploy Lila over multiple servers for resilience would be nice, but then we'd lose the ability to cache in heap, because proper cache invalidation across multiple instances would be impossible. The performance and complexity implications have deterred me from trying it out so far.
This is beautiful. I mean, people forget how far you can scale. Like, you can just rent a bigger instance, right? Like, you can actually, and that's what he's doing, is he just built a pretty easy, like, I mean, there's nothing in here that's just something that's so amazing that it's going to blow the socks off Fang Engineering. Just wrote one server and put a big machine behind it. Like, that's great. Let's go. Sometimes this is easier. Sometimes it's really good to know what you need to solve and just solve the thing.
That's right. Lila runs on a single server, managed by a company called OVH. A single server means that all the state can be stored in memory, allowing processing to be much faster. Lag can play an important role in chess games, especially when flagging in bullet. Lichess addresses this with lag compensation and optimistic client-side rendering, which means that even here in Australia, the experience is fluid. The solution only works because chess is a turn-based game, but Lichess can leverage the simplicity of a single server to be very performant. Here's the architecture of Lichess. All the grey boxes are physical server computers in a data center. The Lichess team manages everything on these computers, down to what Linux distribution is installed. They used to use Arch Linux, but migrated to Ubuntu. Although distributions...
Nice. He wanted a girlfriend. That's a good move. Like, honestly, that's a good move. You know, a wife and kids and the ability to start a family is an amazing move. And so pretty happy obviously as you get older, you know, you want to be able to do that. Yeah, he's a sex haver now. Confirmed sex haver going on right here.
Also seem to be something that isn't really important. Yes, the applicative and database servers used to run on Arch Linux, like 4 years ago. Every software upgrade was quite scary, and we had some downtime. Absolutely not blaming Arch for this. It's a great distribution that I'm still happily running on my laptop. It's just not the best choice for servers. Nowadays, Lichess servers run on Ubuntu. It could be Debian just the same, but we keep installing Ubuntu for the sake of consistency.
Yeah.
Manta is the biggest machine and runs the main monolith. Around this is the other services and many database replicas. There isn't a lot of information about...
I assume a lot of the expense comes right in this region right here, right? A lot of databases. Databases are typically pretty expensive to run.
The deployment process of the monorepo, but we can see from some of the microservices that they try to keep things as simple as possible. This is obvious when looking at the deployment.
Oh, nice. Okay, someone said here's the cost. Oh, nice. I didn't realize there's a cost. Tuna fudge face. Thank you. Nice. Yeah. DBs do cost a lot. That's a lot, but that's not that much. I wonder where all the cost comes from. Main dev salary 58,000. Mobile dev salary 49 grand. Damn. Miscellaneous as 60,000 for extra stuff. So a lot of the cost is coming from this chunk right here, which is going to be chess content and tournament coverage. That's going to cost a lot. Site moderation. That's going to cost a lot. Yeah, you have to hire people. Site administration. French taxes. Damn, French taxes, biggest line item. Dude, the biggest line item, French taxes, getting owned by the government. Data protection services. All right. People cost a lot. Nice. Okay. Games per day, 5.2 million. $60 an hour. 0.00027. So what is that? That's that's effectively 0.03 cents per game. You get about 3,700 games. Wow, that's pretty great. Almost $1 a minute. That's really great. That's pretty cool. And so they run only off of donations? I didn't know that. Wow, they run off donations. That's pretty cool. Some machine learning going on. Nice. That's super cool. That's really cool that they kind of expose all that information.
Deployment script for Lila WS, which is arguably the second most important service. It's just a script that uses rsync to dump the files on the new server and then SSHs into it to deploy the new version. Some of these side services use other languages when necessary. The red services are written in Scala, while the orange ones are written in Rust.
Nice.
The Rust services are usually smaller services with high performance requirements. Lichess is a web app, but it also has an Android and iOS application. This is the only part of the system that has a separate, dedicated developer salary. The mobile app used to use Ionic Capacitor, but the team decided to move to Flutter and recreate a whole dedicated application to provide a better user experience.
Wow.
Using Flutter makes sense for...
Why does Flutter have such a... It seems like every time I hear Flutter, people lose their crap.
This team, since it is open source and multi-platform, much more than the sum of its technologies. Tools aren't everything. This project succeeded not because of its stack, but because of the dedication and hard work of its founder. The developer mindset throughout its life has also played a huge part in its ability to succeed with so little resources. Tibor is obsessed with simplicity. With each new line of code, we're adding maintenance burden for years to come.
Facts.
Compatibility with the rest of the site, with the mobile app. Migrations through new libraries and language versions. Refactoring the code itself. Redesigning the UI it is a part of. The new line of...
By the way, this is such a good call out that every time you add a line of code, every feature that you add is a liability. It's really true. These things are all so true. Like, people need to look at things as much more liabilities than they do. I think a lot of times people look at just pumping in features nonstop as a form of just creating a moat. You're also creating a huge liability. And it could, I mean, the thing is it 100%, you assume it's 100% likely needed. But this is the reason why, like, A/B testing and really ensuring that everything you build has real material impact on your bottom line. Because if you don't, you gotta get it the hell out of there, right? Like, right, you gotta get the hell out of there right away. Oh God, this hits. Every stupid new feature is something that intertwines. More code can go wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Of code
Tell my
will
boss
need to
that.
be revisited many
Send
times,
him here. I'll
adding
tell him.
time and risks to every code modification that affects it. Lines of code are not valuable. They are a cost that is not paid while writing them, but while maintaining them, sometimes years later, and they pile up. Adding lines of code to a program is like adding weight to an airplane. It better be worth it. This simplicity, which is prevalent throughout the entire program, is a key to its success. The developer isn't trying to shove as many features as possible into the codebase, but trying to grow it in a sustainable way. Tech debt is the biggest frustration for developers, according to the Stack Overflow developer survey this year. But Lichess has very little of it. Since there is no product team, there is no one to push back on doing things right the first time around, or going back and fixing past issues.
Also, when you're just the only person working on something, you know the entirety of the code base. And so the cost of tech debt, I feel, is disproportionately lower than tech debt you did not create. I think there's something really important to that factor. Because I've created a lot of tech debt, but it's my tech debt. I get it. I get the reason for the trade-off, and I can work really fast around it. So it will never feel as heavy as tech debt you didn't create. Since when is the product team the one pushing back and saying you need to address tech debt? The product team never says that. Team product is always features. Features continue until revenue increases indefinitely. Right? Shareholder value. More than personal happiness. Right? That's how it goes.
I didn't shy away from changing parts of a stack I didn't like, even when it took weeks or months. It's one of the props of a project led by its developer. There was no one to tell me that something is more important than clearing away tech debt.
Yep.
Reading and listening to Tibor, it is so evident that he is one of the most humble people you could meet. In a field that is often governed by hot heads and strong opinions, he is a breath of fresh air. He is an extremely hardworking programmer who could be making much more money by working on a for-profit project. But he chooses to work on Lichess and pays himself a very modest salary because money...
Very, very, very modest salary, by the way. Dog, 58 grand for what he's doing is crazy. That man could easily put a zero behind that number by simply just going to some FANG company. Easily, right?
Project. But he chooses to work on Lichess and pays himself a very modest salary because money is not important. He's happy doing what he loves and traveling the world. This is perhaps the best lesson to learn from Lichess. There is more to life than working at FANG or selling your startup. There is so much joy to be had on working on your craft and making delightful products, even at the cost of potentially more money. It would be a disservice
Practically gonna make me cry with that.
to Tibor and to Lichess if I didn't mention the open source identity of the platform. Openness is perhaps the core value of Lichess. The product was open source from day one, and the first features were implemented after Tibor communicated with a user who stumbled onto his hobby project. There is no bigger goal to take your money or sell your data or even show you ads. Lichess is just a great product because building great products is rewarding for its author. There are many possible lessons to be learned from studying Tibor and Lichess, and I hope to learn a lot from this incredibly impressive project. Here are some of my personal takeaways. Simplicity. It's important to be afraid of features. Code is a necessary evil, and the best code is no code at all. Great programmers do less of everything. Fewer dependencies, fewer features, fewer lines, fewer abstractions, fewer...
The dependency one is so interesting. I can never tell where the right level of dependencies are. Things like Rust makes it really easy that you have to dependency everything. but I just never know where that right line is, right? Like if you write even the simplest Rust app that we just got done doing, where is it? Right here. How many did I get up to, right? I have anyhow, I have clap, and I have Tokyo. I barely got anywhere, right? Like I could probably drop anyhow. I think that'd be pretty easy to drop anyhow. Probably didn't need to do that. But clap and Tokyo just right off the rip, right? I'm just curious, how do you... Some environments just demand a whole bunch more dependencies than other environments. This error is greater than anyhow. I can tell you either... I can't tell if you're just being like silly or if you don't know what you're saying. Those are two very different things. This is library code, application code, right? You use them differently, right? They're meant to be used. They're meant to be used extremely different, you know. And so, oh, nice. We've actually gotten into the point where Rust now has duplicate libraries. Nice. I didn't realize that Rust has officially achieved JavaScript status. Nice. This is how you know you've reached JavaScript status when someone says, here's a core library, and someone says, that's core library is not as good as this other version. And then you have another one, and then you're arguing over these tiny little things. You've now done it. You've now done it. Oh, wait, no same problem in Go. Well, yeah, Go doesn't really have that problem because Go just has a standard that's crazy good. You rarely don't use the standard. It's the downside of a small standard library. Exactly. The downside of a small standard library is that you have to dependency out everything. And so I'm curious how you measure, like, because obviously there can't be a definite number to when it's too many dependencies. Some dependencies are, weighted heavily more than other. Like I would argue that Serday is effectively not a dependency. I would argue that clap, Serday JSON, all these things aren't dependencies because you can't JSON serialize or deserialize in Rust without them. Yes, Serday is basically the standard. Yeah, batteries included means you can do 99% of the things with it. Yes, I've become a much bigger fan of batteries included languages because how I look at it is that, okay, here's the standard item. I can now take the standard and I can use the item, say HTTP. I can make the assumption that HTTP, that library is either written the best it can be in Go, or as time goes on, it'll be written better and better because it's a part of their standard. Like I have this kind of like confidence in it that it's a good library that I should be able to always rely on. I've become a much bigger fan of batteries included. I used to not like batteries included. Now I've become the person that's like, oh, batteries included is the way. It's just like you just have a language that says this is how we do it. Okay, if you don't like this, you can use dependencies, but this is the way we do it here. We do it this one way. That's it. See Purist in Shambles. Yeah. I know. I think Dino is actually doing something really cool, which is actually building out a standard library for JavaScript. That's been needed for a long time. Many things change when we become sex averse. It's true. It's true. That's why I love Gingerbill. Gingerbill, I just love your takes because you've actually built the language, and I like to hear some of the... I'm still a little bit blown away by the whole... you have an LSP for Odin, but you just don't use an LSP at all. I just love navigation for LSPs. That's like my favorite part. Meta frameworks, Lamau. Meta frameworks are interesting because it's a really weird term, meta framework, to begin with. I would assume Astro's technically the only real meta framework out of meta frameworks. The reason being is that you can use almost any framework, drop it, like you can just drop in Svelte or Solid or React. So it feels like the only true meta framework is Astro. The rest are just using the term meta framework, but what they really mean is they now dictate what your client and what your server needs to do. I love batteries included when they build it how I want them to. Well, sometimes you need the battery. Sometimes you need to change how you want to build it to make it work out. What does meta really mean? Nobody knows what meta really means in this situation. My favorite meta framework is React. React is not a meta framework. It's just a framework. So many frameworks that we even have frameworks for frameworks. Yeah, the real meta framework is vanilla JS. That's the truest of real frameworks. All right, let's keep going.
Fewer patterns. When one of the smallest JavaScript frameworks started growing in complexity, they moved to...
React is not a framework, or React is not a library. I hate to break this to you. I hate to tell you this, but when it changes and dictates effectively how you write your entire UI, it's not really a library. Like, oh, I get you have to import it. Oh, no, I understand they say it's a library. React is a library, React DOM is a framework.
To an even smaller and more flexible framework. He regrets using the Play framework because it has too many features he doesn't need, and when he migrates, he does it correctly and completely. Minimizing tech debt is much more important than exploring new features. Do it right the first time, or take the time to do it right the second. There's nothing more dangerous than growing tech debt. I've been a part of many projects where there is a legacy service that everyone refuses to touch, but don't live with tech debt. Fix it before it slows you down to a crawl.
Love that take, by the way. One thing I really do like is building something, and then as you grow, you feel the pain, but you don't refactor the moment you feel pain. You actually have to let it go a little bit and really understand why it's developing the pain and why it's a problem. Because I too often see that the moment that something starts causing a problem, people try to fix, and they've effectively just created that problem for like 2 months later. Because they didn't even understand why the pain was happening. They just deal with the next step ahead of you. Instead, allowing that time to cook and really get why the thing is the way it is, and coming up with something is very good. I feel pain and do nothing about it. I mean, your name is literally unthinkable present. I mean, it is perfect. Your name perfectly matches your attitude.
Don't mess with the front end. Keep it as minimal as possible and move as much logic as possible to the backend. JavaScript is dangerous. UX is more important than UI. Be deliberate about which features go where, and don't add features that do not have a logical place in the UI. Database technology.
Wow, that was a pretty bold statement for the takeaway. JavaScript is dangerous. I hate to say that I'm biased, okay, which I like to think that I'm not biased. JavaScript is dangerous.
These need to be robust and scalable, but other than that, don't stress too much about what you use. Use something that is tried and tested and stick with it. Don't overcomplicate things. Tooling. At the end of the day, it's important to use the right tool for the right job. A functional, high-level language like Scala is a great tool for a massive code base with lots of moving parts. A low-level, performant language like Rust is perfect for smaller services that need to go fast. You need to use tools you're comfortable with, but you also need to be ready to step out of your comfort zone if massive gains are up for grabs. It would have taken the Lichess team much more time to optimize Scala enough to match Rust performance than to just write these smaller services in Rust. It's also important to let the tools make your life easier long term. Tibor chooses tools that work for him. By using static typing and functional paradigms, he moves as much of the complexity to compile time as possible, freeing.
I'm still curious about that. I think that really does work out. I really did like at least one statement. You know the recent Linux drama with Rust, and where the guy, I think his name was Tom, Tom's a genius, by the way, stood up in the audience and said that he's not sure if encoding all that semantic meaning into the type system is actually worth it in the long run. I really did like that takeaway. I like thinking about that, and I've been thinking a lot about that. And so it makes me want to redo getting good at Rust and try to get really, really good at Rust, better than I was, just so I can try that. That take was bad, though. I don't think that take was bad at all. I think there's something really, really, really interesting about that take. I think he said that just for the drama. I don't think he just said that just for the drama. I think there's something really good about that take, because Go is still statically typed. It just doesn't have you can't encode a lot of semantic meaning into the type system. You know, you have to encode it via procedural programming. And like that's just how it works. And so I'm very curious if I can retry to adopt Rust again and kind of rethink through, can you encode a lot of that? I don't know if that guy has the experience to have an opinion on it. The thing is I hate this type of thinking in general. Someone that's been programming for a very, very long time can most certainly have opinions and thoughts about things. Let the guy have opinion, because you know the thing is that sometimes it's the inexperienced person that can make really amazing observations. Just because he has a lot of experience does not mean he has experience in Rust, which you're probably right, but maybe he can see something that you can't see because he doesn't see the same way you do. And so it's really good to kind of like hear and think about that. There's a hidden cost of semantics that is hard to detect. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm curious about. So I don't like to just dunk on people. Static typed is amazing. Writing a tax form-based type system is not. I mean, Ginger Bill, also, again, creator of a language, and I do not believe Odin has nearly the complicated type system as Rust would have. So I feel like I need to go into Rust with an even more deep mindset, or go OCaml, right? OCaml has the same type system effectively, just a little bit more, right? Like really kind of go into it. So it's either Odin or probably OCaml. Who knows? I think I just need to do O's. I know Elixir needs to be in there as well, but I'm just curious, right? What does semantic meaning mean? You encode what you could encode in lines of code, but instead you encode it into your type system. Commit to the cult. I know. Anyways, it's just a very interesting takeaway, something to at least minimally think about. Obviously, this guy's very successful, and maybe there is something to be said about success of meaning in like the deeper meaning of types in projects with less people.
Him to think about the actual problems. Tibor expects that he will make mistakes and plans accordingly. A common thing he says is that his job is to fix yesterday's bugs and create new bugs or features for tomorrow. I love this mindset. I don't think he's relinquishing responsibility, but he expects that mistakes will happen and is ready to fix them when they do. No one writes perfect code, so be patient with yourself and try to set yourself up to fix bugs quickly. Lifestyle. Status, rank, and
for people asking anything to do with semantic type coding, just look at any of the TypeScript stuff, right? Really advanced TypeScript. Go take Matt Pocock's TypeScript wizardry course, and you'll see all sorts of different things you can encode into the typing.
salary aren't as important as the value
Not for
you're
me,
delivering
but you can
and
do
how
that.
happy you are in life. Improve your craft, not because it will get you promoted, but because it's fun to create things. And when you do create things, don't be afraid to share them with the world. Don't be greedy with your talents. Software is built on openness, and the more we collaborate, the more cool things we can create. The last thing I want to do is plug the Lichess Patreon. Their website is completely open and funded by donations. Tibor deserves every cent, but he's capped his salary so low that most donations will go towards building a better product anyway. Thanks for watching.
Where's the Patreon? Lichess.org. By the way, if you don't like my takes, that's a good thing. You should have your own opinions. You know, a lot of people want me to have the opinion that you have. A lot of people want my opinion to conform to their opinion. It's just not going to conform to your guys' opinions, okay? That's just the way it goes. You don't speak in a way that makes me want to migrate to your opinion. Good. You don't need to. You don't need to migrate to my opinion. You should create your own opinion by doing things for a long time.